Senate Majority Whip and South Dakota Republican Senator John Thune. Senator Thune, thanks for joining us.
Charles, nice to be with you. Thanks.
The notion that somehow this is sabotage, that Senator McConnell is pulling a fast one, what are your thoughts?
I don't think he's pulling a fast one. I think he's asking people to go on the record and find out where people are on this great, hot new idea that Democrats have come up with that somebody else gets to pay for.
Are you surprised, though, that all the declared Democratic candidates and many of those who are on the cusp of declaring have all said, hey, this is part of our platform, too. We support this?
It is kind of surprising, Charles, but I think if you look at where the Democrat Party in this country is moving, they've taken a hard socialist turn. And the issue with every one of these socialist fantasies is it sounds really good as long as somebody else is paying for it. But when you hand somebody the bill and they realize what the price tag is, all of a sudden they have a different impression. And I think that's where a majority of Americans, as they look at this and they listen to this discussion, that's where they're going to land. They're going to say, okay, they're realists. They're going to say, what does this thing cost? And they're going to do the cost benefit in their own minds and conclude that this is a really bad deal for American workers and American families who are going to get stuck paying the bill for all these socialist fantasies that some on the far left have come up with, and evidently a lot of the Democrat candidates for president have decided to embrace.
Well, if you look at the broad strokes, because that's all we really have, it feels like this perhaps is an extension of the social justice movement that was very prevalent under President Obama. If you look at some of the things, high quality health care, affordable, safe, and adequate housing, economic security. These aren't necessarily climate change issues. These are sort of issues where they're telling the American public, hey, it's all going to be part and parcel of this major package. Climate change will be the headline, but we'll take care of all the ills of this country.
Right, and I think it stems from the sort of ideology that government knows best. And it knows best when it comes to the decisions that people make in their daily lives. You know, they've got, if you look at the agenda that they've advanced, we're talking about a top marginal tax rate of 70%, a wealth tax at 90%, an increase in the business tax. You're talking about open borders. You're talking about Medicare for all, which costs $32 trillion, and the Green New Deal, which they say will cost the average family about $3,800 more in annual energy costs. So these are they're all part of this sort of utopia that a lot of the government engineers in places like Washington come up with. But in the lives of the American people, they have real, practical, everyday costs, right. And that's what the American people are going to be looking at.
Senator Thune, speaking of open borders, I got to get your thoughts on this proposed shutdown resolution, or compromise, if you will, and the potential for President Trump to sign it, and there being a vote on it.
Right. I think, Charles, there is, as you know, in a negotiation, some give and take. Nobody got everything that they wanted. But the point that I can tell people is the president is going to build the wall. And that's what the president wanted out of all this. He's going to get more wall, twice as much wall as was appropriated for in the last fiscal year, and 3 times as much as would have been allowed for in a continuing resolution had the government been funded that way.
Although he's getting a fraction of the money that he requested originally.
Sure. I mean, he's not getting what he wanted, and I think he knows that. There are other ways that he can get some of those dollars by reprogramming existing funds. He'll get there, but this is an incremental process, and this is a down payment. We've talked about it that way, but he is going to be building wall, and he got the Democrats to concede they weren't going to put a single dollar into wall funding. And if you look at what they were trying to do with capping the number of beds, the number of criminals that could be detained by Immigration and Customs Enforcement, that also was a win. And I think the president can live to fight another day, but he's going to get wall funding, and I think that's the important message coming out of this discussion.
Senator John Thune, thank you very much. Always a pleasure.
Thanks, Charles.
Thank
you
you.
bet. See ya.